Hello, my name is Noelle Onstad, and today I will be discussing business diversity councils. This presentation will cover diversity definitions, why business diversity is proving more and more beneficial for companies, and that's really why diversity councils are being driven for the business, because they are being beneficial. Some considerations that should be taken into account as businesses implement their diversity councils, and additionally, I'll be covering some challenges with diversity councils as well as best practices. Finally, I will review the resources used to create this presentation. You will hear many different definitions for diversity and inclusion, and they vary by country and region. One definition of diversity is the state of having people who are different races or who have different cultures in a group or organization. Oftentimes, people discuss diversity and inclusion together. And one definition of inclusion is the act or state of including or of being included within a group or a structure. Now, both diversity and inclusion present opportunities for businesses to hear the perspective of others and to respect and incorporate their ideas, and then again to expand our thinking. Diverse views usually result in more innovation, better decisions, greater employee satisfaction and engagement, and drive a high-performance culture and a better business result. A diversity council is a group of employees who represent the diverse perspectives and experiences in the business. And primarily, they're responsible for promoting an inclusive workplace for diversity. So why diversity? Here are some compelling quotes to support diversity and why it's good for the business and why diversity has evolved into a business-driven strategic initiative. From McKinsey, Why Diversity Matters, companies in the top quartile for gender or racial and ethnic diversity are more likely to have financial returns above their national industry medians. And a McKinsey study found among U.S. companies, there's a linear correlation between commitment to diversity, leadership, and increasing financial returns. This quote is from David Livermore, a current diversity expert and author of Driven by Difference. Diversity is not going away, and these days people are moving from everywhere to everywhere. Diversity is here to stay. And from The Economist, women have entered the workforce in huge numbers. Mass immigration has transformed Western societies. Encountering people with different ideas and perspective can boost creativity. Additionally, there are 5 major business trends that influence organizations' focus on diversity and diversity councils. Today, employees are expected to work with team members, business partners, and customers around the world, so a global perspective and cultural competencies are imperative. Migration has also changed the face of today's workforce globally. Additionally, an aging workforce, the different generations that are working in the workforce at one time, and an increased demand for skills and education requires organizations to rethink traditional methods of recruiting and retaining employees. Flexibility, cultural competence, and business acumen should be considered when organizations plan their workforce diversity strategies. Also to be considered is technology. There's rapid technological advancements, and they've increased access to information and global communication. A focus on diversity helps organizations design products and create a strategy to meet employees' and customers' expectation for real-time availability of information and for the latest tools and systems. And increased regulations and media attention add new dimensions to organizations' global compliance requirements, such as anti-discrimination, emissions, and environmental standards, as well as pay equality and privacy laws. Organizations must keep up with these rapidly changing laws and regulations on a global basis, and will rely more and more on the creativity and innovation of diverse talent to ensure not only compliance, but also innovation product designs. In the midst of rapid globalization, social, political, and economic differences emerge in communities around the world. Managing these sensitive topics and building a culture of inclusion within an organization will be challenging. However, with greater diversity awareness, leaders will be more prepared to handle these situations. So research shows diversity is essential for competitive advantage. So if this is the case, what's taking so long in our businesses? Well, there are some things that we need to consider for business diversity councils, and we'll run into a few challenges. And perhaps there might even be uneasiness and discomfort within the business. So here are some potential issues to consider. From driven by difference, diversity is sometimes used too broadly to include any kind of difference, such as differences in personality, skills, working styles, tenure, and thinking. But if diversity includes everything, it ends up meaning nothing. And although diversity may seem very broad, organizations should ultimately create an environment where every employee is respected and given an opportunity to succeed. Here are a few additional quotes from The Economist. Too many companies fail to rethink their management styles as they open their doors to new groups. Employees need to trust each other if they are to produce their best work. Companies will find it hard to make a success of diversity if they refuse to recognize that it brings challenges as well as opportunities. Let's discuss some of the challenges businesses may encounter with diversity programs. Diversity programs fail for several reasons. An article from the Harvard Business Review highlights several failure points. A study was performed on 829 mid-size and large U.S. firms found that mandatory diversity training led to a significant decrease in Asian Americans and Black women representation because managers naturally resist strong arming. And so when the mandatory training was offered, it had a reverse effect with managers. Additionally, formal grievance systems reduced diversity across the board, primarily because they were meant to reduce biases in management. However, formal grievance systems primarily led to retaliation by managers. So if these things don't work, what does work? Well, company diversity programs are more successful when they frame efforts more positively. Focusing employee engagement in recruiting and mentoring, it turns managers into diversity champions. Building diversity bridges through self-managed project teams helps increase contact through groups, which are often concentrated in certain functions. So cross-training also increases employee exposure to different groups. For example, a group that primarily is owned in engineering might also be paired with a group from accounting. So two groups that primarily don't usually work together, if they are to put together to solve a specific problem, that more diverse background and way of thinking will help. Social accountability and diversity task forces not only promote diversity by allowing members to bring solutions back to their own departments, so they're really driving the change and they own the change and they go back to their departments and they are the champions. How can diversity councils be incorporated into a business strategic business plan? Well, let's look at an industry model that has actually been very successful. So first, there are local diversity councils, which is what we've been talking about, shown in the red circle. They focus on creating the right work environment for success. One thing that you don't want to do is really try to bring in a big diverse group into a workforce, but not change the culture of the business. That's when you're going to have problems. You're not going to have this diverse workforce staying around because they're not being accepted and the culture hasn't changed to support the diverse workforce. So that's where diversity councils can really help out with the accountability of each business and making sure that each business is diverse. Their diversity council handles mainly internal diversity projects and are leader-led by managers. Now, shown on the lower left are affinity groups. Now, affinity groups are typically started at the grassroots level, and they focus on specific diversity characteristics. And they work on internal projects and are generally employee-led, so not manager-led, but employee-led. Now, examples of affinity groups would be, for example, SWE, which is a Society of Women Engineer. It's a women's affinity group. And there's also many groups out there for gay and lesbian affinity groups as an example. Shown on the lower right are formal community involvement teams. Now, a community involvement team helps collaborate with external relations, and for example, a team set up for a United Way campaign that drives employees to collaborate and work towards a community involvement project. Now, overall, this industry model covers several aspects that any company can use to advance its diversity. Diversity councils should consider 5 focus areas when establishing goals, with a focus on how does this action actually improve a business, or how does it benefit a business when you have these goals. So some goals that can be considered are for outreach. How do you expand your candidate pool to be and recruit more talented, diverse employees? Additionally, some goals might be to train on diversity-related topics, but remember, don't make the training mandatory because it's going to have the reverse effect when you force people to be trained on diversity. Councils may also aim to develop careers to ensure people capability for the business success is in place. There's also diversity councils driving a goal to solve business problems with diversity elements, and business diversity councils should focus on champion diversity and inclusion in their workplace. Here are the references that I used to create the presentation. There's a lot of interesting material available regarding business diversity councils. If you would like to learn more, I highly recommend that you select any of these articles to have a more thorough understanding of business diversity councils and how they can be implemented, what are their benefits. I'd like to thank you very much for your attention and your time, and I hope you learned something new about business diversity councils and that I've inspired you to go out there and do a little bit more research and see if any of these ideas can be implemented within your own business.